wonderful guests, community members, a welcome to celebrating priests, and a thanks to all of you, students, faculty, staff, and visitors alike. I try to emphasize, when the occasion warrants, at different times, what it means to be a memorial, a monument, to stand for something that may not be at first obvious. I have this theory. You go to, on the suburbs, maybe your parish churches are kind of the other extreme here, but you go to a classic old church, and every window is a stained glass rendering of a saint, of someone from history. And in every stained glass window, there's the name of a family or a group or someone who made possible that stained glass window. Even the pews would have names on them because different families, that was their pew. They had an annual pew rent. You would go through these places and see name tags and plaques and so many names, many of them lost to history. So many saints that you have to dig and find the meaning. Go back to that same period of time. Our civil monuments were strong yet stark. Where exactly on the Washington Monument, on an Egyptian obelisk, do we even find the name of George Washington? But we still know. But my thesis is that we want those individual names. We want that multitude of names. As Catholic churches became a little more plain or without those additions, our civil monuments became more detailed, more personal. A great example is the Vietnam Memorial, where every name of every lost serviceman is listed. I think now we're in a period where we're finding the happy medium, the strength of the symbol, but the inclusion of the persons. And because we understand the persons, we begin to understand their lives, what made them important at that moment in whatever place they were, what made them willing to do whatever they did, whatever is being memorialized, whatever is being given a monument. Now, we must always work to understand the great values, the soaring spires of a church, the soaring edifice of a monument, but the personal story behind it. I started a number of years ago, following an example started by Father Sean, with the football team, to offer a short summary the life of one of the 29, so that there would be more context to for whom we are a living memorial. I want to just take a couple and intersperse. Saw and heard all the names and the dates. Army Private Thomas J. Jaquest. After Tom was killed in the battle for Timor Island on September 21st, 1942, the Waukesha Freeman reported that he was believed to be the first Waukesha serviceman killed in hostile action in the South Pacific. Even before the attack on Pearl Harbor, Tom left his home on James Street, just a few blocks from here, and enlisted in the Army. He followed an example of service to country already set by his two older brothers. In the Pacific, Tom was attached to a unit of Americans fighting alongside Australian, Dutch, and Portuguese soldiers in an effort to retake Timor Island from the Japanese. In the letter to his mother, Tom's commanding officer described his funeral in this way. Picture a peaceful cemetery near the ocean, far from the theater of war. A Catholic chaplain reads the funeral rites as the hero is laid to rest. Your son was a true American soldier. He died the death of a hero, and his name will forever be one that can be spoken of with extreme pride. In that letter, his mother was told only that her son was buried somewhere in the Southwest Pacific. for her and for his brothers. Catholic Memorial eventually became, and now is, his only living memorial. Thomas Jaquest was willing to serve, was willing to sacrifice, and was willing to do what was ever necessary of him to transform the world, to offer something to the very core of his being. He was willing to be someone who made a difference. Army Air Corps Sergeant Frederick Petrinos. At Waukesha High School, he was known as Fritz. Fritz Petrinos was a 3-sport letterman at Waukesha High School, a running back on the undefeated football team, a starter on the conference champion basketball team, and a sprinter on the track team. 2 of his constant teammates all 4 years are also members of the CMH Honor Roll, Leonard Miola and Rob Petrie. All 3 chose to enter military service immediately after graduation and before being drafted. An aerial gunner in the Army Air Corps, Fritz's squadron was often tasked with the dangerous mission of dropping supplies to resistance fighters behind German-held lines. On April 19, 1945, his B-24 was shot down while doing just that, dropping supplies to the Norwegian resistance. His body would never be found. He would be declared deceased 1 year later. Sergeant Petrinos' family, including a brother who was serving in the South Pacific at the time, never had a funeral or a burial for him. We are his monument and memorial. We see the stories as you look at particularly those 23. They were classmates and teammates. They worked together at some of the old line Waukesha companies. They were drawn to serve with one another, to be friends and teammates and helping one another to the very end. But willing to take on risk, willing to challenge for the betterment of all, and willing to sacrifice his very life. And just one more. As we became a school and some of our former students went on to serve, Army Specialist George Joseph Carr, a member of Holy Apostles Parish in Berlin. When George was at CMH, he was a very involved student. He helped raise money for international church missions. He was involved in campus ministry, drama, and the band. Considered a gentle soul, George dutifully responded to the draft while he was in college. Specialist Carr would be awarded the Bronze Star for heroic and meritorious service. On May 29, 1967, he would give his life, offering Caritas Anonymous. According to the military record, George Carr was using his off-duty time to help provide clean drinking water and farming irrigation to a Vietnamese village. He lost his life while working to clear an area of unexploded ordnance. We are a monument to his commitment to Caritas Anonymous, charity in all things. Even in the places where people least expect it, even in the moments when we think we don't have to do it, we stand for something. We stand for ideals greater than ourselves. We stand for our values, our friends, our families, our loved ones. We celebrate lives of service not as some way to glorify what happened to these men, but as a way to remember that it was necessary and valuable in the moment and in the place. We stand to celebrate lives of service so that in this moment, so many of you as students who do wonderful and wondrous things are affirmed, recognized. But that every one of us remember the servicemen who stood before, the teachers who sacrificed time, sacrificed treasure, the vocations, the priests, the many religious sisters who served here today. We celebrate lives of service so that as a memorial to others, but as a monument to giving for others, we may serve honorably in that same mission, in that same purpose. This day, I am so thankful that all of you, all of us, remember what it means to be people of service, in small ways and in great, in local and in the world, in this moment and in every day to come. Blessings to all of you.